Pace truck to the infield. Let's try it again. Here we go. Torson bounces the 1A off the cushion. Wagaman off the bottom. Hello. T-Dub launches the 27 out in front of the field. Troy Wagaman Jr. leads lap number 1. Davey Franick second in the 28F. Ashton Torgerson runs third. Chase Deetz is fourth. Torgerson off the bottom in the 1A. Shark Racing entry into second. Wagaman, Torgerson 1 and 2. Ryan Newton, 66 car, going to round out your top 5. Chase Deetz underneath of Franick for third. He'll grab the spot there. Franick now going to try and move back beneath the 23. Not enough track room there. Franick slides out, just barely misses the outside retaining wall. Ryan Newton moves underneath the 28F. 66 car into fourth. Out front, the front two, 27 in the 1A, put a little distance between themselves and the rest of the field. Torgerson gives chase. 2.5 car lanes, 3 car lanes separate Troy Wagaman Jr. and Ashton Torgerson. How impressive has been the performance of Torgerson thus far. 1A going to slide the 27 in turn number 2, and he will make it stick. Ashton Torgerson, your leader. Wagaman fights back on the inside. Torgerson covers the bottom, slides up the banking, catches the cushion. Ashton Torgerson leads lap number 7. Hello. Chase Deetz underneath Wagaman. Wagaman able to get back under him. And we've got one turned around facing the wrong direction over in turn number 3. Field in the hands of Ashton Torgerson into the Rabine Service Center start zone. Green flag in the air. Torgerson rim rides through 1 and 2. Chase Deetz launches off the bottom in the 23 car. Deetz flexing some muscle early, slides up the banking in front of Wagaman's 27 car. Got him. Chase Deetz into the runner-up position. Ryan Newton flying high through 1 and 2. He's all over the 27. Little contact off of turn number 2. Wagaman covers the bottom. That's exactly where Newton was headed. Ryan Newton out of the throttle, slides up the banking in the 66. He'll regroup. 9 laps into this one. Out front, Ashton Torgerson moving away. Take a look at his gap here. Last time by of 2.58 seconds. Make that 2.89 seconds. How about you, Danny Deetz up to 6th. Deetz from his 14th starting spot, and he is closing in on Lance Deetz. Deetz with a slider through 3 and 4. Hello. Danny Deetz, top 5 from his 14th starting position. Deetz momentarily able to move back around Deetz. Deetz heads to the bottom. Deetz off the cushion. Forget about it. 48, gone. Out front, Ashton Torgerson having it his way. 2.55 seconds out in front of the field. And he has caught the back markers. $14 down. 16 to go. Chase Deetz now beginning to close on your leader. Heavy traffic in front of the 1A. 18 scored, 12 remaining. Heavy traffic in front of your leader. Down the backstretch into turn 3. 1A car goes to the bottom. Slides up the banking. Catches the cushion. May have grazed the outside retaining wall. As he moved around Davey Franick, who has dropped back through the field. Problems on the 28F as he now registers in that 18th position. 98 100ths of a second between first and second. Chase Deetz hanging right with your leader. Oh, gutsy move there. Torson up the banking in front of Dylan Norris to put the 17 a lap down. That was not only gutsy, it was well executed. Torson driving Pabst Motor Speedway like he owns it. He just hammered the cushion in turn number 1. He is not letting up. Does not want to let this one get away from him. When he comes off of turn number 4, he'll see the white flag. One more time around for Ashton Torson. What a story this is. And only his 10th start of the season. Second start for Shark Racing. He goes second quick overall. Goes to the bottom of 3 and 4. Comes off of turn number 4. Ashton Torson, a feature winner at Pabst Motor Speedway. Here he comes. RF Knox and Company. RSI Outdoors Hunting Blinds. The Auto Barn. Pell's Tire Service on the side panel of this 1A. What a story tonight. He is out of the car. Checkered flag going up top. Welcome him tonight at Pabst Motor Speedway into victory lane, Ashton Torson.
SprintCarUnlimited.com, coming to you from Pabst Motor Speedway. We're here with car owner, Sprint Car Hall of Famer, pretty much do everything, Bobby Allen. Bobby, you mentioned in Victory Lane that you looked at him a month ago or so. Tell us a little bit about that. You said you also have a list of drivers.
I had a lot of people call me, a lot of people text me, and I looked at a lot of drivers over. And what I actually do, without hurt no feelings, I look at the weight of the driver. I look at how much he's ran, how crashy is he. Where you want a driver that drives on the edge but not over the edge. And I know it's kind of a fine line. You got to look at all that kind of stuff. I want a driver that drives smart. And I called a few people up. He only really mainly has run midgets for Keith Kuhn, Tanner Torson, and run some 360s, a few 410s races. But everybody I talked to him on it, they said the kid's good, and he only bet a Nerf bar last year. That's not a bad reputation. Now his reputation, he got threw out of a midget into chili ball, but I was there. A guy rode straight into him and crashed him. That's a different story. So anyway, that's my pick. I want a driver that's smart, that drives on the edge but not over the edge, and that really, I don't have a trucking company, concrete company, any kind of company. My business is racing, so I do everything business-wise. And we're lucky to be able to do it. It's always by the skin of my teeth. I can't afford to have cars tore up, and I know sometimes it ain't the driver's fault, but then I look at all that kind of stuff. But anyway, that's how he was my pick. Then Cale was closer, so I thought, well, I'll give him another shot back here. He actually really didn't tear up too much stuff too quick for me, and I thought, well, I better give this other kid a chance now. And that's what I did. I talked him up, called him over. Yes, there's a lot of drivers back here. I looked at a lot of them. I had 2 or 3 choices, and it was going back and forth. In hindsight, so easy. But right now, it's looking good. I watched him drive through traffic. I watched him race the car. He seemed to drive very smart, but very good. Everything they said. But that could change tomorrow. But today, it looks really good to me.
Yeah, I'd say it looked good. You're watching this race. Are you surprised what's going on out there a little bit? I mean, it's only the second night in his car.
No, that's how he looked to me the first night. He looked at me the same way the first night. You can tell how he drove. That's why we brought him in now to run this weekend mainly, because we're going to Eldora next weekend with the big boys, and then we're coming back here to run Lincoln and Williams Grove. So I thought we needed a little bit of a tune-up. Last night he qualified good. He ran good in the heat. We overset the car up. It was our fault he wasn't good last night. We overdid judgment on things. The track was slick, windy, and all that. So I blame it on us last night.
But again, I know Jacob has talked. He was on a show or two, and he said, "Look, we just want to roll it in the trailer."
That's the win races or make money with a race car. It has to finish. can't blow motors, you can't crash cars, and you also got to be able to drive it right accordingly to the people you're with. That's one thing with him right now. He said he don't know these drivers yet. And that's a little bit tough too. So he's learning that too, where to go and what to go. And I actually felt we were actually pretty good here because our car's good here. We're hit and miss at Port Royal, but we're pretty good here, and there's room to go low or high. So anyway, it all worked out for us tonight. It was meant to be.
This had to exceed your expectations.
Well, it did. It definitely helped a lot, I can tell you that.
Now what?
Well, we'll see what the next one says.
Thanks, Bobby, and congratulations.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Welcome to another edition of the SprintCarUnlimited.com live show. I appreciate everybody joining us. It's Tuesday, and we'll go to the chat and take phone calls in a minute. We have a lot to talk about. Obviously, the passing of Bobby Allen, National Open. We're winding down as far as the number of races, but it seems like we still have a lot of silly season stuff. Kyle Ripper being fired Sunday morning. So we're going to jump in, obviously, and I'm going to just hit on these things before we get to the chat and the phone calls. Obviously, the biggest story of the weekend was Bobby Allen, who lost his life on Sunday evening. I was shocked. I talked to him Saturday night at Williams Grove Speedway for about 15 to 20 minutes. Everything seemed fine, and it really shows how fragile life can be. He was a Hall of Fame driver, a legendary car owner, and probably the most important thing, a personality. He was loved by fans, obviously his family, Shark Racing, even it exists because of him. And I think you see a lot of him in Logan and Jacob Allen. And our condolences to Jacob Allen, Logan Schuchart, and the entire Allen family and their friends. On the track, Sheldon Haudenschild put together what I feel is the best race of his career, or at least that I've seen him run. He's known for being aggressive and maybe impatient, but none of that was on display during Saturday's National Open. Haudenschild started second on the grid, fell back to fourth, and he didn't push the issue where you can make mistakes. He was methodical in finding the bottom and making his way back to the front. He ended up passing Bill Baylog with 5 laps to go and went on to score the $75,000 win. I know he's won $100,000 at Huset's, but this is, in my mind, the biggest win of his career. It's a crown jewel win, and he deserves all the credit for the way he drove. Kind of the weird thing of the weekend was after winning the crown jewel, crew chief for Sheldon Haudenschild, Kyle Ripper, was let go on Sunday morning, fired, let go, whatever you want to say. Not too long after that, the rest of the crew quit. And Kyle Pruitt will be the new crew chief for the number 17 Stenhouse Marshall Racing Machine. Sheldon Haudenschild is staying on. He's going to finish out the year, probably because of his commitment to NOS, and then he will be moving on after that. Again, if you want to give us a call, 1-844-543-8589. Let's get started. Let's get to the chat. What is your favorite memory of Bobby Allen? Mine is watching him win the 1989 Tuscarora 50 when he took over on the last lap when Wolfgang crashed. I actually wrote a commentary. I wrote a column about Bobby for the website. It's actually free. so everybody can check it out. And I just remember when I kind of first got subjected to, I first kind of became aware of Bobby Allen. It was 1986. Doug Wolfgang, who was my favorite driver, dominated 1985. I expected the same in 1986. I was 13 years old, and you never think, you just thought he was going to win 50 races every year. Well, he won the first World of Outlaws Swing East was in May, and Wolfgang beat Bobby Allen at Williams Grove, but it wasn't a romp. It was close. Next night to go to Hagerstown, and it was an epic battle between Wolfgang and Bobby Allen. Bobby Allen came out on top in that event, and I just remember going, who is this guy? Again, I was 13, and I knew who Steve Kinzer was, and it's not that I didn't know who Bobby Allen was. It just he didn't have the swagger of or the street cred yet of, say, a Wolfgang in the Weicker car or Steve Kinzer. That night I said, this guy's really, really good. So, because I remember I only started watching sprint cars in 1984. I briefly saw him in the late 70s at Penn National, the Lloyd car with Smokey Snellbaker, Lynn Paxson, so on and so forth. But I really didn't get into sprint car racing until 1984, but I knew who Steve Kinzer was right away. I knew who Doug Wolfgang, Sammy Swindell. And that night at Hagerstown, it became apparent who Bobby Allen was. So that's my favorite memory, or that's the one that stood out. When was the last time a crown jewel winning crew chief was fired while still on the premises? I don't ever remember that happening. I've been trying to remember that when I heard it happen, which was Sunday, I couldn't think of one. At least from 1984 on, I couldn't think of one. I read there were like 8 sprint races paying $100,000 or more this season, and the Natty wasn't one of them. High Limit had the weekend off, yet very few made the tow. Is the National Open losing its status? No. It's still, look, and I've gone over this several times. I don't think a crown jewel is just what it pays. I think there's prestige, there's history. Obviously, the people who've won it. Yeah, it would have been great if all the High Limit guys would have been there, but Brad Sweet obviously has a lot going on. Rico Abreu, a lot going on. And I don't think it's so much that the National Open is losing its luster as guys can be more selective because there are more higher paying shows. So I think we could see, now that doesn't mean people are going to miss the Kings Royal or they're going to miss the Knoxville Nationals. The Knoxville Nationals is still number one. Kings Royal, albeit my favorite race, is number two or however you want to say it. And then Williams Grove comes up next as far as the Triple Crown. I don't think it needs to be 100,000. You put 25,000 into it, you're not getting that 25,000 back. Okay, let's say you would have drew 5 more cars, and you would have drew 5 crew members per car at, say, $50 a pop. And you're at that rate, you're at $1,250, but you're paying $25,000. It just economically, it makes no sense. So I don't think just because it's not 6 figures means it's any less of a race. I think it just is what it is right now, and they're not raising it. I don't know if they have plans to do so in the future, but I don't think it needs to be. I still think it's prestigious. Ask Sheldon Haudenschild if it's the biggest win of his career. I know he won 100,000. I get it, but I just don't. To me, it's not losing its luster. We have Ken on line one. Ken, how are you?
Yes, good evening, Jeremy. I was listening to you there, and you brought back some memories for me. My greatest Bobby Allen memory is that race that you were talking about. I was actually the announcer at Port Royal Speedway that night when Bobby won that Tuscarora 50.
Oh, the
And when he got out of
1989
the
one.
car,
Yep, the 1989 one.
yeah, when he won the Tuscarora 50, when Wolfgang dropped out, when Bobby got out of the car that night, he said to me, "What happened to Wolfie?" He says, I want to tell you, he says, "I came here tonight strictly to get some laps on the car for tomorrow night at Selinsgrove when they were having a $50,000 to win race."
Yep.
And he was just going to take some laps, but he started moving through the field and started moving closer to the front. And he said to himself, he might as well stay out there and see what happens. And Wolfie dropped out on the last lap, and he ended up winning the race. And he got out of the car, and he said, "What happened to Wolfie?" So that was my greatest Bobby Allen memory.
Yeah, I mean, look, Bobby was unique. He was a personality. I've never heard anyone say a bad word about Bobby. He was always friendly. He was always engaging. It didn't matter how his car was doing, or how the season's been going. He was always, at least where I was concerned, I mean, he always waved, and we'd maybe talk for a minute, and that was, and then we went on our way. So, incidentally, you know who won the next night at Selinsgrove?
Wolfgang.
He killed him. He blew him away. So,
yeah,
he
won a lot of races in that AD.
Yeah, he did win a lot of races in that AD. But again, I just, the sport lost a legend, and it's sad.
It's gonna be like when we lost Podnet. There's gonna be an absence for a while, and hopefully we can continue on and stay strong.
Yeah, we'll continue on. I mean, life, life goes on. I mean, it just does. So, again, just condolences to the family and friends of Bobby.
One thing I wanted to also mention, couldn't agree with you more on what you said on the 90 at 9 about the split time trial sessions.
Oh, yeah.
If they're going to do it that way, I wish they would at least have some kind of a point system or something. I mean, the guys that were loaded in that first section, like Chase Deetz, he probably had one of the best cars there on Saturday night, but he was behind the 8 ball from the start because you had the top 3 guys that you knew were pretty much going to be in the top 4 out of their time trials, because Gravel and Macedo and Buddy almost always are in the top 3 or 4. So you knew they were going to be there, and there was only room for one more, and it was either going to be Lance or Danny. And then the other one, you could almost pick the top 4 in that one just by who was in it. I sat there in the grandstand before they ever started, and I said, well, I can probably give you 7 or 8 of the cars that are going to be in the draw. And it worked out that way.
Yeah, I just don't. And I don't like when people say, well, this is how we've always done it. Well, if that's the case, then we should all light our houses by fire, because, we didn't have light bulbs, but we evolved, we got light bulbs, and it's better. And this would be an easy fix. It's not calculus, as I said. There's ranking systems out there. You have SprintCarRatings.com. I've done rankings. You can have your own running set of rankings. And will it be perfect? No, but it'll be a lot better than than it was on Saturday night at Williams Grove, when you had basically the top 3 finishers from the night before: Kofoid, Macedo, and Gravel. And then you had Pursley, Peck, Freddie Raymer, and Troy Wagaman. You had them all in that first flight. It just was ridiculous. That shouldn't happen, especially with 75,000 on the line. I just think it would be a fairer system if we did what. And the other thing is, High Limit does it. It works. So I don't.
But like you said, they're not gonna take anything from High Limit. I mean,
Well,
they did pick up a couple of things like the fan of the night and a few other things. They're picking up little things, but I don't know if they'll pick up anything real big.
That's short-sighted. It's just short-sighted. Learn something from your competition, pick up something that'll make your product better, and evening out the flights, definitely would be an improvement.
Yeah. Like you said, I don't think they need to pay anything more for the National Open to keep its luster, but I do think that in order to be up with Knoxville and Eldora, they need to eliminate the provisionals and have a better way of handicapping the cars.
Well, look,
because you don't get a provisional at Eldora or at Knoxville. If you don't make it, you don't make it.
Look, I'm not going to defend provisionals. I don't like them. Last night Patrick Mahomes didn't get a fifth quarter because he couldn't get it done in the first four quarters. So, I'm all against. I'm against provisionals. I'm against the work area. Maybe for a flat tire, that's it. So, yeah, there's different changes you can make, but the split field thing, I'm focused on that for now.
Okay, well, good to talk to you, Jeremy, and let's hope we have another good weekend.
Hopefully. Thank you very much. All right. Kentucky Derby isn't in the top 10 paying horse races. Ask anyone jockey which race they would prefer to win. Exactly. People can bag on Williams Grove all they want. People can talk about the racing. They can talk about it's not Eldora, Knoxville. Still a crown jewel. There's only 3 of them. There's only 3. Now, Gold Cup in California would be the next one in line. High Limit's gotten, and Brad Sweet have gotten that up to 6 figures again. Or it could have went to 70, and I'd say the same thing. It has the history. It has a higher paying show now. Maybe that cracks it, but those 3, Knoxville, Kings Royal, and Williams Grove National Open, the others have a ways to go. Brian Walker, 2025 was first time since Kings Royal began in 84 that Eldora, Macri, Knoxville Timms, and Inadio Hod were all won by first-time crown jewel winners. Do you see a parity trend continuing? That's actually a very, very good question. That might be a 90 at 9 tomorrow because I need one. No, I don't. I think you're going to see, because I think, look, gravel's only going to get shut out so long. Carson Macedo is due for a good run at Eldora. It's not that he's won there before. So and he's won the Grove twice. So, and I think Kofoid is only going to continue to get better. And I think it's going to be hard to beat those guys. I think Rico is a guy who's knocking on the door of a crown jewel. But a first-time winner, that's tough. No, I think we get a repeat next year, maybe 2. All right. Got Scott on line 2. Scott, how are you?
Good, buddy. How you doing tonight?
Not too bad. Not too bad.
Yeah. I know they're just talking about this crown jewel and the young guys. Hasn't Macri hasn't won one yet, has he?
Won the Kings Royal this year.
No. I'm sorry. I meant the little guy.
The little guy.
I have trouble remembering.
That's all right. That could be anybody.
Rico.
No, Rico has not won one yet. I think he's knocking on the door, though. Knoxville keeps improving. Eldora, man, I'll tell you what, it's feast or famine for him there. So in those bigger events. And Williams Grove's probably the one where I think if he doesn't go there, obviously you can't win it. But I think Rico's the one who's knocking on the door, who could kick it in next year or the year after that.
Yeah, that was a good statistic that Walker put up there. That was good.
Yeah, it was interesting. I've never even really thought of that.
Yeah. This crew chief swap out this weekend.
Yes.
Said it was unprecedented, that it's never happened before.
It's never happened that a guy won the crown jewel and was let go the next day that I know of.
Okay, 1983, a year before you attended the races. Okay.
Yeah.
National Open at the Grove.
Yeah.
Paxton wins.
Yes.
Gets in victory lane, has his mechanics there, Davy Brown Sr.
Yes.
and Jr. And as they leave to walk back to the truck, Hamilton fires them.
Yes, I do know of that. Now, the question is, when did Lynn Paxton retire?
That night.
I think that's really, I don't really count that because the driver was gone. Everything was changing with that team. That's why I don't count that.
Okay, well, at least you got the mechanics to your Doug Wolfgang team the next year.
Hey,
Oh,
maybe shouldn't have gotten rid of and put something, but that, yeah, I mean, again, there's always, I mean, good for Wolfgang. Bobby Davis Jr. But look, it's unprecedented in that situation. If Sheldon would have announced his retirement and the team was going away, I get that, but that's not what happened.
all right, put an asterisk beside it.
I'm giving it an asterisk. Yeah, and I don't like asterisk, but I'll give it one anyway.
Okay. Plead the gospel in the morning.
Yep. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, bud. Bye.
Bye-bye. How many outsiders do you think will support New Egypt's Outlaw show since PA races I assume you mean Selinsgrove. Not many. I don't expect many. I expect Selinsgrove to, I think Deetsz probably goes to Selinsgrove. I don't know what Chase Deetz will do or Freddie Raymer, but I would assume Selinsgrove will get most of the heavy hitters. I'm thinking 26 to 28 cars at New Egypt, something like that. I'm sure we're all going to ask about Ripper and the Marshals. Well, I mean, ask away. Ask away. Any chance Sheldon actually gets in the KCP 18 this year yet with how messy things are? Stenhouse Junior Marshall. No. Sheldon's going to stay with Stenhouse Marshall to finish out the year. Again, he has contracts as well. Noss is there. You don't want to burn a bridge. I just think he's got 10 races yet. Just finish it out. And who knows where he's going? Do you have any idea where the Shark Racing team name came from? Yes, it's honoring the veterans from World War II, I believe. I think it was Joe Allen yeah, exactly. It's a tribute. It's a tribute to veterans. Joseph Allen, correct, who was a pilot in the U.S. Army and served with the Flying Tigers during World War I. I'm sorry, I got the wrong war. But yeah, I knew it was a tribute to his father and veterans. It's actually on their website. Before launching my NASCAR career, okay, and after my local start in PA, I was fortunate enough to work with Bobby, Logan, and Jake at Lawrenceburg in 2015. I'm very grateful to have known him. Yeah, I think that's a kind of the consensus across the board. A lot of guys have come through there. Helmick, Joe Mooney, who's with the crew chief with Macri now. And I've never heard anything bad about Bobby. Everybody liked him. Do you know what happened at Kings Speedway? Track is now closed. Track promoter Peter Murphy is gone, along with the 3 races he promoted that paid $10,000 or more. What happened? It was a personal thing, and he was let go at Skagit, and of course, basically folded up shop at Kings. I'm not going to get into his personal business, but it was family oriented. Any idea who goes to the 17 car next year? No. I've heard of a couple people who've turned it down. I do not know who they get at this point. I think they're probably going to go on a driver search, unless that has changed in the last 2-3 days. I've not heard anything, but they have their crew chief, and we'll see. Man, you're getting down to the end here of guys who are available. And I think that's you never want to be the last cute girl at the prom. So that's kind of where they're at. I just read that Anthony Macri is confirmed to race at the Trophy Cup in the Tyner Hurst number 94. Yeah, I saw that. He has a doctor's appointment coming up. I mean, I think it's still probably up in the air. I mean, if it were me, I would not race it. It's just because back injury. That's pretty important. You don't want to injure it again. You don't want to make it worse. And let's face it, you want to go into next year healthy. We saw today Brian Brown put something out that he had surgery because his injury isn't healing correctly. Don't know the status of Tyler Courtney. I think for Anthony Macri, if I were him, I wouldn't race at all this year. I know everybody wants to see him. There's a month left. Get into the offseason, heal up totally, and then start fresh next season. But guys want to race. Do you think Tanner Holm goes high limit or World of Outlaws next year? If yes, what team? I mean, I don't see the Tarleton car going high limit or World of Outlaws racing. I heard some. I just don't see that. I don't know if he has the resources to do it in his 18 car. I know some people have thrown his name around as a possible national touring guy, whether, the 17 or whatever. I just don't see it yet. So I'm going to say no. But I have no specific knowledge about it. Dason Pursley to the KKR 9. Gee, I haven't heard. How does the Tuscarora 50 stack up against the Natty-O in terms of prestige? I'm a younger West Coast fan, so I'm not terribly familiar with the history of both races. I think the Tuscarora 50 falls in behind the National Open as far as prestige in this area. It wasn't always sanctioned. Either was the National Open, but guys, the National Open's been sanctioned longer, so it just has a richer history. If you look at the winners of that race, they were national guys. So it's just bigger. It's bigger in payout, which doesn't mean everything, obviously. It's at Williams Grove, which I know Port Royal's, doing a lot of good things. It's stars on the rise nationally over the last 10 years, and they've done a good job there. But and as much as I like the Tuscarora 50, It's still not on the level of the national opening yet. Not in my mind. All right. The Iowa will be what? Oh, the 1A will be at Lincoln Speedway. Yes. I think they're doing something to honor Bobby, I would assume. I hope Babs gets high-paying, prestigious type of race event. It's a great track. Yeah, I love Babs. I think they're trying to make some of their events bigger. Example, Kevin Gobrecht Classic in September, the Sprint Showdown in November. It's the last 410 sprint car race in the United States. So I think that's something they're trying to build up. And, of course, they have their World of Outlaws event. I mean, it's the only one where you get French fries in a bowl, which is kind of unique. But, yeah, no, they're trying to build events. I mean, it just takes time. It takes time. Any idea why Freddie pulled in at the start of the feature? I do not. I wasn't able to get down there. I did a post-race show. I tried that for the first time, so I only got down in the pit area briefly, and then a little afterward, and he was gone. So I didn't get a chance to ask him. Hello, Jeremy. Happy Super Dirt Week. I like Super Dirt Week. I've actually been to Super Dirt Week. Any chance of 410 sprint cars in the future? Also, favorite Dirt Week sprint car memory. For me, it was 1989, Doug Wolfgang in the 8D. I believe, and it wasn't documented, he turned a faster lap than Billy Pouch's record lap there. He did it in traffic. Doug Wolfgang crushed him at Super Dirt Week. It was in the 8D. It was fondest memory of Super Dirt Week. I grew up on modifieds when I was young. When I was 5, I was going to Penn National Speedway. So I like modifieds. I like the good modifieds. Let's put it that way. How many do you think will be in New Jersey Friday? How many posse guys? It doesn't seem like a good car count there. Again, I think it's 26, 28. I think you'll get maybe some guys from New York, a couple of those ESS guys. Maybe you catch a couple guys like a Davey Franick, somebody like that. And I think you get to 26, 27, somewhere in there. You might get one or two posse guys. Justin Woodall, I'm sure, would be there. Kind of be stupid for him to come to Sealands Grove if he's from New Jersey and you have an outlaw show in New Jersey. So I expect him to be there. Wouldn't doubt if you have one or two more. I wouldn't doubt if Freddie Raymer goes there. But I just don't think you'll see, all of the Pennsylvania posse guys there. Will Brenham Crouch be back in the same car next year? I think he has shown improvement. Maybe switching to the Outlaws could be what he needs. My opinion is that Brenham Crouch really hasn't been given the best opportunity to progress. Remember, he won the IRA title as a rookie 410 sprint car driver. So he just, and then he went high limit racing right after that. And I think he's just getting beat up running 16th, 15th, 14th. I just don't know if those are quality laps. I'd like to see him kind of run a pick and choose schedule. I'd like to see him compete in PA, and then venture out similar to what Macri does. And I think just learn the race, see more tracks, race some weekly shows just to work on his racecraft a little bit, running up front, things like that. He's had some good showings the last quarter of the year. But again, I don't like throwing guys on a national tour right away. I don't think that's the way to do it. I get why they did it. You want to get the franchise. So mission accomplished. Okay. And I get that. But I wish Brenham Crouch could have maybe learned racecraft, running in Central PA, running maybe Knoxville during the year, running a pick and choose slate. I just think he'd get more opportunities to race up front and get what that's like. Because when I interviewed him at Port Royal the week he did well at Tuscarora 50, he mentioned that, getting to run up front with those guys, it was invaluable. So I just don't think there's been enough opportunities for that. When do we get to see you talk to Doug Wolfgang on your deep dive? He did something, it was this year, and I don't really want to get guys back to back with other shows, so I'll wait a little bit. I mean, obviously I have other questions for him, but I just don't want to double up. I just don't think it's as interesting. So, we'll see. Saturday night race at Williams Grove was some of the best racing I've ever seen at Williams Grove, or I should say in a while. That was awesome to see. It was good racing. Now, the one thing that, and just to be fair, you didn't see guys advance a lot. Logan Schuchart was hard charger 7 spots. Where you were is where you were. And you could race within that group. You just weren't going to make up a lot of ground. So, but yes, both features were entertaining. Both nights, the track was good. Yeah, they hit a home run. Dave on line 3. Dave, how are you?
Hey, Jeremy. Looks like the posse really did kick butt there Saturday night.
Oh, you mean
I
Friday?
wonder what would have happened if Reitzel and Macri would have been there, and where was Rico at?
Well, Reitzel ran Lee County. He actually won there Saturday night. The posse had a good night on Saturday or on Friday. Friday's when they swept the podium. Look, Macri would have been a favorite. Macri has been really good at the Grove this year. I think his lowest finish is 5th. So, the back injury definitely took a guy out of the mix for the posse. Rico, it's hard to say. I mean, at times he's won at the Grove. So, I don't know. I don't know what he was up to. And I just think those guys run the schedule they do. They were coming off weeks where they ran for 100,000, 126,000, 58,000. Then they ran for 30,000 at Lernerville, came back in here. I just think there's so many big races now. People can be selective.
Looked like Tanner got him a win there the first night back in the Tarleton car and lighted with the 360, but you don't think his name's going to come up for an outlaw seat?
I think he needs to do more. I don't think he's done enough. I mean, I'm sure it will, because there's just not a bevy of drivers available right now. And I'm sure his name might come up, but in my mind, he needs to show me a little more. It needs to be more consistent. One narc win at Thunderbolt doesn't automatically mean, if he wins 5 or 6 in a season, yeah, okay. But it was one at Thunderbolt.
Mm-hmm.
I need more.
He does on his show. He does a good tribute to Bobby Allen, and Lance DeWeese did one over on Wing Nation. And Lance was saying that the very first car that he ever drove was a Bobby Allen car,
and it looked like a jigsaw puzzle. It looked like pieces of different cars. It just, wow. I remember that car.
That's all I got, Jamie. Good shows always. I'll see you later, buddy.
Thank you. Thank you, Dave. Appreciate it. Any word on Macri? Yeah, he was at the National Open this week, which really surprised me. It's not like, that's a race that obviously he circles every year. And I mean, it probably would have bothered me to be there, but no, he was there. He's doing okay. And I heard he has a doctor's appointment coming up. So we'll see what develops. Shout out to Bill Baylog on a great Natty O. Yeah, I wrote about him. I ended up getting it out Monday, but he has really looked good in the big races. I mean, made the Knoxville Nationals A main. He looked good at Huset's. He had a win there, plus he had a couple seconds. Now, Kings Royal, not so good. Probably might want to avoid Eldora. But he's looked good in these crown jewels. He's looked good in the big races. He has 3 wins this year with the Outlaws. I think Bill Baylog just keeps getting better. And he's going to stay out next year. He's not going anywhere. So I'm anxious to see if this keeps going. Rico would actually have had to show up to win the Natty. I didn't see him in any results. Correct. I was really hoping Lance Deetsz would have done better, even walk away with a win at the Grove Saturday night. He had a bleeder issue. And that's why he dropped from 2nd to 6th in his heat race. So once he got buried, like I said, you weren't going to make up a ton of time, and it just made it tough against that field. Anything new on Baston? No. I talked to Baston. I had him on the podcast recently. As of now, nothing new. I think he could be running Trophy Cup in the W car, he said. But other than that, no news to report. I think Tanner Holmes should do the Tim's 10 program with Tarleton and run the full NARC schedule. There's no reason to rush it. Yeah, I just don't. I need to see more. I just need to see more. I mean, it's plain and simple. There's no other way to say it. Book 13 will still be around next year. Came from the owner himself. Yeah, I know some drivers who were talking to him. Jeremy, why did Bill Rose run 2 cars at the Open? He wanted to race. Don't know how that sat with Zach Hampton necessarily, but Zach Hampton ran qualifying and sat in the infield. So and watched the rest of the night. So I don't know what the deal is there, but I know Bill Rose said he was going to get back in a car, and he picked the National Open to do it. So we'll see what happens the rest of the season. Yes, my understanding is Baston will be a Trophy Cup in the 57 or W or whatever number they will be. Yes, he will be there, and I think he's a contender. I think he's a contender right out of the gate. Jeremy, do you know information about teams in 2026 that we don't? If so, what is the info? Come on. Figures that's Sugar Bear. No, I'm not going to do that. That would kill my website. Come on. Breaking news feeds the beast. Can't give it all away. Will the Phillies get swept? No, they won't get swept. I was surprised the Dodgers won the last game, although they had Snell on the hill, and he's really good. They took him out after 6. I don't understand the whole pitching thing where you can't go to the 7th or 8th and then turn it over to your closer. They almost blew that lead, messing around with a pitcher who I thought after an inning should have been pulled. So, but Phillies didn't get it done, which is fine. It doesn't bother me either way. I'm not a big baseball guy, although I do like the postseason. Post-race show was awesome. Definitely need more of that. I was good with it. I didn't like that we had internet trouble because we were using the track's internet, and God forbid that a racetrack have good internet that you could actually do something. I tried my hotspot early and it didn't work. And then when it was kind of flickering on and off, that's when I put my hotspot back on, and we were decent after that. I mean, it's a work in progress. I just wanted to see if it was something that is viable in the future. I'm going to Texas, so I might do it the Saturday night from Texas. Starlink for the win if you're going to pay for it. Again, so I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. If it's something that goes well, I'll do more of it because I kind of enjoy it. It gives me a chance to comment on stuff, not in real time, but close to it. So I enjoyed it. Hopefully it gains some traction. Have the recent events around the NOS 17 made some drivers hesitant to take the ride? Or is it more related to guys already having rides lined up? I think it's the latter. I think guys just getting locked up, and again, 17 just a little late to the party on that. And I think it's the rides that were available as well. I think I don't think drivers who are desperate for rides will take anything, it seems like. Now, I do know one driver who is being selective, and I don't blame them. I actually like that. I think you got to evaluate your situation. I think you got to evaluate crew chief, ownership, resources, the equipment they use. I think there's a lot of things you need to take into consideration, especially nowadays with all the money on the line. And there's a lot of drivers out there, so you don't want to put yourself in a bad situation and then not get another situation. So I don't think it's that, though. I just think that the drivers who were looking got locked up. Is there any more regional series available for Brad Sweet to buy? I'm sure everybody has a price. I feel I know what he's doing. He's building a pyramid system, high limit at the top, regional underneath, and then your local tracks underneath that. It gives you dancing partners if you make any changes. You could go to, a product sponsor and go, hey, if you come with us, we'll give you this, this, and this with our lower series and or tracks. So I just think it opens up options for high limit. So if I'm Brad Sweet, I don't blame him. Absolutely do it. Plus Narc's in his backyard. It makes sense. He can kind of control scheduling on the West Coast a little bit. You can avoid some conflicts, streamline it, make it better. So I don't blame him for buying Narc, and it just so happens that he has the All-Stars, and it could I just think that he's playing chess a little bit. Why is Pursley leaving the 13? They're going well right now. Is he leaving the 13? Look, nobody was saying that at the beginning of the year. I think when we look at drivers, and I think when we look at good, bad, whatever, let's include more of the races. At the beginning of the year, people were talking about him possibly getting let go and it be the experiment being over. Now, I wasn't one of those people, but I heard it. I saw it on here. Did you think he'd develop quicker? All that stuff. Now people are saying, well, he's doing good right now. Don't be prisoner of the moment. I think Deetsz Pursley is going to be a really good driver. I look at him like I've looked at athletes I've covered in other sports. Just something about him. he succeeds. I mean, the midget crash he had in November 2021, where, doctors were mentioning paralysis, and then he walks into the Chili Bowl a couple months later. That guy's different. I just don't think he gets rattled. I think he is going to take his lumps, and I think there's going to be a learning curve, but I think he's going to succeed. I think Deetsz Pursley is going to be a wing driver for a long time. Where does Shark Racing go from here? Does Jacob take over as the boss man? I've thought about it. I'm sure they haven't. I'm sure I'm sure maybe Bill Klingbeil, who is kind of the business guy there. I'm sure he's thought of it. He's kind of but they're all mourning right now. This is still so fresh. I mean, it happened Sunday. I think Bobby set these teams up to be sufficient, meaning that the kids could run them. I think Logan Schuchart probably has been running his team. Bill Klingbeil's there as well. He used to be at TSR, knows what he's doing. Jacob Allen has been with his dad for how long now? And Bobby was mostly with, it seemed like when I saw Jacob this year, I saw Bobby a lot. And on Saturday, the trailer Bobby walked out of to sit down in that chair where I talked to him at the mouth of the trailer was Jacob. So I just think they're probably reeling a little bit. Obviously Sutton, I think they're probably mourning still. I think it's going to be an emotional time. It's going to stick with them, but I think they'll be okay. And your best guess, what is the average number of motors that a PA team has? It fluctuates. It depends. I'd say anywhere from 1 to 8. There's, it depends. And it changes throughout the year. I know of a team that has 8, and I know of a team that has 1. So anywhere in there. Bob on line 4. Bob, what do you got?
What do you think happened to the 18 car?
As far as what?
I mean, they were going pretty good with Gio, and then they're not even competitive anymore.
Well, I think anytime you make changes like that, I think you're at that point you're trying to rally. I just think you're changing the situation. They've been with Gio for how long? 3-4 years? I just think it changes the situation. I think to ask another driver just to get in it and go fast out of the gate, I just don't. I don't think that happens. And we've seen it this year how many times? I mean, Emerson Axum in the 18 had a couple top 10s, not, hateful, but they struggled. Corey Eliason jumped in it this weekend. You had Donnie Schatz, who jumped in the W car and didn't really fare as well. Jumped in the Lunscher car, didn't fare as well. Jumped in the Sides car, struggled as, and these are big stacked fields. The most successful has been Baston. But I think, too, Baston drives different than those other guys. So I just think it's very situational. And I think when you let your driver go in the middle of the year, I think all bets are off, and I don't see a lot of immediate success because you're just changing the dynamic of your team.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's Power Eye, but Axum jumped back in that 27 and looked better immediately than he ever did in the 18.
It was Power Eye. It was Power Eye. Look, yeah. Who is he running against? I mean, no disrespect to Brady Bacon and Aaron Reitzel, but I mean, we all know how good Aaron Reitzel is, and Brady's had some success, made the Knoxville Nationals A main. But I mean, it's not like he was running against Macedo, Kofoid, Gravel, and then in PA running against DeWeese, Dietrich, Wagaman, Raymer, then also running against some high limit. I mean, all those guys who were at the National Open. That's tough. And I didn't even get to Sheldon, Logan Schuchart. I mean, Power Eye has nothing like that. Now, don't get me wrong. I think Power Eye regionally, good. I think it's a good series to be a part of. I like the fact that they have a 410 series down there, but it doesn't have the steam of the World of Outlaws or High Limit. You can't really compare them. Plus, I'll also add, Axum's familiar with that situation. It's plug and play. He drove the car since he's gone 410 racing. So it's kind of an easier transition.
Yeah. I also wanted to say that I was kind of impressed with the racing from Williams Grove this week. I've watched a lot of races out there, and it's just never really been my favorite track for exciting racing, but it is pretty good this weekend.
Yeah, I'm hoping that they bottle it and use it weekly next year. The problem is they made it wetter at the beginning of the night because they knew they were getting 56 cars. So it was, I think, when you run a local program, you don't have that. You don't have 56 cars. Now you have 358s and 410s, and if you add them, but they don't each run time trials. They don't each run heat races. So you don't have as many laps on it. So I just think they got to use what they had this week and maybe tweak it a little for local shows to try and get it the same way. Hopefully they do. Hopefully they took notes and can duplicate it.
Yeah, also, I thought the gentleman's comments earlier about Tanner Holmes was pretty spot on. He's not ready to go on the road. They'll kick his brains out.
Well, I just think
he ought to just stick around California, run NARC, do his Midwest trip, get about 10, 12 races in, and be happy with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think we rush guys too much. I go to, everybody wants Ryan Timms on a national tour, and I'm like, why? He's doing well in the 10 car. Shane Liebig has a business. They won enough money this year. I mean, I guess it's never enough, but I mean, and he's not going to win the Knoxville Nationals every year. So I think he needs to build up to going on a national tour. I just think that success, you're just adding bricks to get there, and you want to be successful. You don't want to go out there and flounder because it can beat you down pretty quick. So I just like the idea of expanding your operation, but doing it in a small way and building up to going on a national tour, if that's what you want to do.
Well, all right. Thanks for taking my call.
No problem. Thank you for calling.
All right. Thank you.
Yep. Why can't sprint cars get along and play nice like the late models do? There's a lot of big money late model races, and the two big series allow the drivers to race all the big races in other series. I think I just don't think they're the same. Late models don't go to the West Coast. So if you can't have the World of Outlaws and High Limit on the West Coast at the same time. That's just not going to work. It's just, you're not going to trip over each other. So I think that takes away two big shows right out of the gate, your Gold Cup and your Skagit Nationals. The Tuscarora 50, the World of Outlaws are on the West Coast. So they're on opposite coasts. So there's another $58,000 to win race where you just don't have both factions. So Houston, they both go. Eldora, they both go for the Kings Royal. They both go for the Knoxville Nationals. The Weicker Memorial's kind of weird, and I think that's going to change next year. I think you're going to see some changes to the World of Outlaws schedule, and I don't think the World of Outlaws are even going to be close to Port Royal for that event. So I just think it's logistics, and you can't build your schedule around the other series. You're building them around events, and there's so many of them now I mean, 8 six-figure paydays, 8, 9, whatever it is. There's no way you can build your schedule around that and have an effective national schedule for your teams. So it's just not the same. It's just a different model altogether. And I think you have more national teams in late model racing, whereas, you only have 29, at least at the beginning of the year, 29 national teams. I think you have more guys picking and choosing in late model racing, and I don't think there's as many weekly shows. It's just a different landscape altogether. 90 at 9. How many more games for Billy Napier by himself beating Texas, the other UT, on Saturday? At least they beat him. And it just proves another Manning bites the dust. Peyton Manning never beat the Gators, and Arch Manning's just following suit. Why do teams like Reitzel and Rico choose not to go to the National Open? So much merch they could have sold. Maybe. We don't know that. I mean, I think people are going to buy Rico merch. They'll just get it online. I hear a lot of guys selling merch online. I can't help for Reitzel just thinking it was his foot. He raced Lee County. It's a track, closer to home. That's another thing. And I just think it's a different type of, I don't know how the Grove, the on again, off again, pedaling the car, probably more than Lee County. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I would imagine that played into it, and not as fast as the Grove. I just think there are a lot of factors that kept Aaron Reitzel away from the National Open. Rico, I have no idea. I have not talked to him about it. Maybe I'll ask him in Texas, but I think they're going to sell merch no matter what. It doesn't matter if they're even there. Realistically speaking, what would it take as an industry to produce a rule change to narrow up the rear tires? Look, Lance Deetsz and I have talked about that. If you go check out our deep dive from last year, right around this time, we talked about that. I mean, look, it would be monumental, because you're going to have to get the tire company on. You're going to have to get Hoosier on board. So they're going to probably have to make a mold, and there's just more to it than just say, hey, make a narrow tire. And you got to get everybody in a room to agree on it. And that's another problem in itself. So I just think there's a lot that could be done that isn't done. I think politics are involved. I think there's logistics involved. So, and I don't think the racing's terrible. I know some people want to say the racing's terrible. I don't buy into that. I just had how many people on here talk about how good the Grove was this week. So pretty much I just don't buy into that narrative. How wrong were you about Shots teaming up with Sides? How many wins did you say they would get? I didn't say they'd get any. I don't think. I said I expected them to do better. Some top fives, maybe a win. I mean, it was Williams Grove. He timed that. Okay? I mean, I talked to him Saturday. He was in good spirits. He said it's tough jumping in and out of cars, but I didn't say he's going to win races. I said I expect him to do better than he's been doing, and this weekend was not better than he's been doing. It was bad this weekend. What happened to Penn State? I was so happy it happened. I think they got beat by Oregon twice. I think they had a really physical, tough game against Oregon, and then jumped on a plane, went to the West Coast, and got beat by an inspired Euclid team. They just didn't look good. And you have to start asking yourself, play calling, is Drew Aller as good as everybody says he is? I don't think he's bad. but I didn't think he was top 5 in the NFL draft good. So, but either way, I wasn't too upset that it happened. Why is Donnie's qualifying times as so poor in all the cars he's been involved with? Is it poor equipment? I don't know. I can't answer that. He was only in the big game car a big game car once. It was basically a one race deal. But Silva's car, it just didn't work out. I don't think it's as easy as you think. And I think Donnie, he mentioned to me he's in survival mode just to get to the end of the year. So, I mean, I think that plays a role too. So we'll see if it gets any better. Maybe New Egypt this week. I don't know. Congratulations to Troy Wagaman on becoming the 2025 Williams Grove champion. Yeah, I've said it many times. I think he has come a long way. I remember him pulling into the track in an open trailer, racing when he could because they didn't have the money to just piecing everything together. Got a shot with Hefner. Looks good. Has increased his win total. Last year he had 3. This year he had 6. He wins the title at the Grove. He wins the Diamond Series title at the Grove, and he has a shot to win the Lincoln title. Look, again, I think Wagaman's making good progression every year as a driver. I think Ben Engel and Wagaman look pretty good as a tandem. And I like what I see. I hope they stick together, and I hope to see Wagaman in that car for a long time. Has it been announced which team Persley is going to next season, High Limit or Outlaws? No. And I'm going to leave it go at that. Still waiting for the merch. I was walking up the grandstand this week at Williams Grove and somebody said that. Maybe it was you. Maybe in the off season. I'm looking into some different things, which is better than it was 2 weeks ago. It's a better answer than 2 weeks ago. Was Aaron Crocker a good driver, or did she just get lucky with the Outlaw feature win? I think she was one of the better female drivers we had in 410 sprint car racing. I think the 15 crash at the Grove was lucky. We weren't talking about another major injury this year. Yeah, it looked like the throttle stuck. It looks like either that or something broke. He hit the cushion kind of weird, and then it just veered to the right. So, yeah, I think we were lucky. I was actually standing in the pit area at the exit of 4 when that happened. It was loud. Everybody turned. It was a hard hit. Glad to see Kerry Madsen was okay. Gio wasn't good all year. It seems like the car went downhill, and it doesn't matter who is driving it. We'll see. We'll see. I think the Gio KCP thing ran its course. There were rumblings at the beginning of the year about some things, and I just think it ran its course, and it finally burst at Eldora, and they went their separate ways. I mean, that happens. When it's over, it's over. And I think Gio's the type of guy, he's not going to stay in a situation where he isn't happy or things aren't going well, and he's going to get in a situation that's better for him. So we'll see how it pans out for both parties. As far as local cars to make the National Open prelim and finale, is the most competition PA has looked okay. As far as local cars to make the National Open prelim and finale, it's the most competition PA has looked against the Outlaws in the last half decade, I believe so. Curious on your opinion. Half decade. Macri not being there, I think, hurts that. I think Macri's been a player at Williams Grove for a few years now. Yeah, I mean, they look good. I think Chase Deetz getting into 23 really helped that program, and I think it helped Chase Deetz as well. So I would say it's a push. It's a push. How about the wheel stand from Brent Marks coming off turn 4 and didn't even lose a position? Yeah, I think that's become commonplace now. Marks is a good driver. Jeremy gaslights too much. I have a business to run. Look, I'll explain it. Here's how it works. Okay. It's not gaslighting. Okay. That's not what it is. Because I'm not looking to get a reaction out of you. The bottom line is this. I have a website. It's a pay website. And breaking news does move the needle. And also, this isn't like when I covered the NFL. When I covered the NFL, I didn't ask a general manager if I could break news. I didn't ask a coach. Players were free to talk about stuff. Racing, it's smaller and it's more niche. And these guys, I almost have to say, okay, can I push the button after you put out like a 2-paragraph release? Now, I can expand on it. I can talk about it more. And there's also teams that let me break the news. But I can't just spill it all, because if I do, it violates trust, and I'm not going to have that. If somebody says off the record, it's off the record. That's it. I don't do stuff like other people do it. I come from a newspaper background, and I'm not going to violate that trust. Also, again, I have the website, and there's a lot of content on there. And I feel it's cheap. Started out at $50. Now it's $35. I'm probably the only thing it's getting cheaper at this point in this economy. So again, I hate that I have to do it that way. I don't like being vague. I try and tell you as much as I can without violating that trust or compromising the other side of what I do. Don't worry though. I will have stories. Sometimes I hint at stuff because I know I can. So I wish I could do it differently. Do you know what happened to Lance in the heat Saturday? Yeah, I said earlier, he had a bleeder issue. And then he dropped it got tight. So at that point, he was just hanging on. As the Woo and High Limit seasons wind down, looking back, which series do you think had a better season in terms of on-track product, night in and night out? That's a tough comparison because, look, each series has clunkers and each series has a standout race that you're like, wow, this is the race of the year. It's like a racetrack. Racetracks are the same. You're going to see a bad race and you're going to see a good race. So to say that one on-track product is better than the other, I think they both have, and that's not being politically correct when I say that. If I thought High Limit was better, I'd say so. If I thought the World of Outlaws was better, I'd say so. I just think over 40, I think High Limit has 45 races in now, and the Outlaws have, I think, probably in the neighborhood of 60. I think over that many races, you're going to see good and bad. Obviously, High Limit's had the more interesting point battle. Gravel kind of got out there in the beginning of the year and just took off. That lead he has, that was all from February to the end of May. Because since then, Buddy Kofoid has more points. So from a point battle standpoint, I think High Limit's been better. Obviously. I think High Limit continues to make strides. I do think they continue to clean some stuff up. I think the Outlaws have the big three right now. With all due respect to Reitzel, Rico, I think the three best cars in the country are the 2, the 41, and the 83. And I'm speculating on if the 2 and the 83, which one right now is the best one. It's hard to say. So I just think they each have their pros and cons. I don't think one is significantly better than the other right now as far as product, because and it also depends what track you're putting them on. If you put the Outlaws at Jacksonville and High Limit at Jacksonville, they're going to be good races. You know, I do think you have guys coming from deeper in the field for High Limit, which I know a lot of people like. So I think there's a lot of give and take there. Finally got a Zeb Wise. Where's Zeb Wise? Will he ever race again? I heard he's getting his doctorate. But that I don't know. I didn't hear he was getting a doctorate. I know he's happy doing what he's doing. I talked to him a while ago, and he said he's enjoying what he's doing. So I'm not going to say he's never going to race again, but if he said he's not racing again, I wouldn't be surprised. I just think the recent how the 26 thing went really soured him a bit. What other rumors you hearing? Heard a team in Knoxville might be expanding. Oh, I hear there might be a High Limit team expanding. I'm hearing that there's a Knoxville team that might be expanding. Let me rephrase that, a pseudo Knoxville team. I've heard, I think there could be, we still got driver stuff to work out. I think we got crew chief stuff to still work out. So there's going to be a lot of news coming down the road. And I think there's going to be time. When these schedules come out, I think there's going to be some interesting changes to the schedule, both from a national series and locally in central PA. So I think there's a lot of news on the horizon. What does Buddy win first, a crown jewel or a Woo championship? Ooh. Well, if you're just considering Kings Royal, Knoxville Nationals, and the National Open, I say he wins a World of Outlaws championship first. Those three tracks are probably his worst tracks. But he's so good everywhere, and he's getting better at those tracks. I just don't think he's there yet. And if he runs next year like he is this year and gets a better start, he can win the World of Outlaws title next year. So I'm going to say the World of Outlaws championship. Can Baylog pass Schatz in the points? Will Baylog overtake KCP in the owner's points? I'll tell you what, I don't think he's been overly good at Lincoln. New Egypt's a crapshoot. I don't even know if he's ever been to New Egypt. I'm going to say that's going to be tough. It's going to be tough, but maybe. He's running well, and Charlotte, I think he can run well at Charlotte. And shots, we'll see. We'll see. Hey, Jeremy, I enjoy the show. Could you do a deep dive with Van May sometime? He's full of interesting stories from different era, won a Natty O, and used a Corvette to tow his car. Yeah, Van May's definitely on my list. Definitely on my list. When will Tony make the Four Crown Nationals great again? I think he's on his way this year. I thought what they did with the third day and getting done a little after 11 as opposed to 1 a.m, I think they took huge steps to making that better. Huge steps. Who wins the high limit? Chase. Who wins the high limit midweek series championship? Rico leads by 6 over Torson, 9 over Sweet, and 12 over Reitzel going into Lucas Oil. I'm going to say Rico. If it would have been Lernerville, I'd say Tanner Thorson. I think Rico wins it. I think Rico wins at Lucas Oil and locks that up. Although, man, again, like I said earlier when I was asked about high limit in the World of Outlaws, the point battle for high limit certainly hasn't hurt their cause. It's the best point battle in the sport right now. And that includes racetracks. So, and the midweek series is just making it that much better. Love all your content, Jeremy. Thanks for all you do for sprint car racing. No problem. Thank you. And we're going to add maybe a couple things next year again. I'd like to add one thing every year to the YouTube platform or one of our platforms. And we have some ideas. Maybe I'll get merchandise, but we won't count that one. SprintCarUnlimited needs an app or text alerts when breaking news happens. Yeah, it's push button notification, and it's about 15 grand. If I had this to do over again, Sugar Bear, this brings up a good point. If I had the website to do over again, if it was back to 2017, I would make an app. My format would be totally different. I wouldn't have a website per se. I'd have an app. Or I'd have a website. It would be a little different and the app would feed into it. I would do something like that. I didn't think of an app. I knew it was expensive and I should have just invested at that, with an app at the start. And you just don't know what you don't know. But I can't change it now. I could get an app, but man, that's salty. That's expensive. Especially for push button notification. Lance being nervous for a race like it was the 90s all over again. Yeah, I was surprised when he told me that, but it comes down and he just doesn't know how long he's going to be doing this anymore. It's coming down to the end, and I just think he's starting to wonder, and I don't blame him. And it was kind of neat hearing that Lance, even at 59, can still get amped up to the point where he gets nervous. Sorry, voice. As far as track prep at Williams Grove, I feel it was more about how they tilled the track up to get more of a cushion. Also, the track had character around the curb, which helped the bottom. Agree with all of it. Agreed. What's the future of the ASCS? Whew. I don't know. I just am not 360 racing. It's different in different areas. Like in Central PA and the East, other than Empire Super Sprints, I don't think 360 racing's, I think it's on the decline. I think ASCS is doing okay. And I think as long as they have the Knoxville 360 Nationals, I think they'll be okay. You still have big 360 stuff on the West Coast. Skagit still has a big 360 race. But I don't know, man. I don't know, man. I keep waiting for the wheels to come off that. But they're more stable now because they have the World Racing Group behind them, which helps. So I think they'll be okay. Have you heard of any new tracks for High Limit or Woo for next season? No, but I have heard them moving around a bit. I have heard dates being moved around. Usually they keep that pretty tight with the scheduling. Now, I'll know probably before it's released because, I'll get it from either teams or officials as long, again, as I don't release it. But I'm sure High Limit will have new tracks because new series, still relatively new. So I think they'll have some new places. The Outlaws usually have a few. I think you could see some go away off a schedule. And I don't know. We'll see. Jeremy, we love what you do and the way you do it. That's why we all gather here. You're giving us fans an open platform to voice our opinions and thoughts. Thank you. No problem. I just wanted to do, when I came up with this show, I just wanted to do fan engagement. Simple as that. No more, no less. Gives people a chance to talk a little racing on a Tuesday. I had a hole in my schedule on a Tuesday. And we're going to change some things next year as far as the website. The podcast is going to move to the front of the week, and we're going to make it there every week. I need to get that thing on a better schedule. I just need to clean some stuff up. But this has been a good addition to the YouTube platform and the Sprint Car Unlimited platform in general, and I enjoy doing it. Obviously, Ryan Timms was a step in the right direction. Ooh, boy, I got to read better. Obviously, Ryan Timms was a step in the right direction as is having high limit guys compete. But what will take to get the National Open to the next step, such as bringing Knoxville cars? You're going to have to up the payout, but you're not going to do it on top. You're going to have a B main. You got to have a B main. You got to have last place pay more. You basically have to build your purse from the bottom up and not the top down. You're going to need a B main. If you want to get Knoxville cars, you want to get those high limit guys, you want to bring in other teams, they've got to be able to make money. Look, they're not going to beat, not all those teams are going to be able to beat David Gravel, Carson Macedo, this year Sheldon Hodenshield. They got to feel like they can make money. The Knoxville Nationals is, look, I will tell you this, there's less people who can win the Knoxville Nationals than who can win the National Open. That is a fact. There might be 5-6 guys who can win the Knoxville Nationals. There's more guys who can win the National Open. So I think it comes down to they got to feel like they can make it worth their time financially. The Knoxville Nationals is big because it has a lot of history and has all the things Williams Grove does. But it pays incredible. It pays incredible. It's like winning a high limit show to be the first guy out of the A main. That's what it is. You get paid well. What is the future of Casey's sponsorship if Brian Brown retires? I think if Brian Brown retires, he's probably going to own a car. And I think it's going to stay right where it is. And I'm not saying he's retiring, by the way. Between High Limit and World of Outlaws, which series will be gaining the most drivers next year? Which will lose the most? I don't think you're going to see a huge defection one way or the other. I don't think you're going to see a bunch of guys coming and going. I think it'd be like one or two. That's it. I just don't. Now, could be a big one. But, you know, what's Danny Sams do next year? I mean, tough year. Just a tough year with motors. He's got to get resources. You don't get a lot of time to rebuild. I mean, High Limit's done in October 18th. They had the banquet, the 19th. And if he goes to World Finals, now you're into November. If he doesn't go to World Finals, which he probably shouldn't, just go home and regroup. You know, so does Danny Sams come back. For the World of Outlaws, does Connor Morrell come back? I think you could have a guy or two drop off. So we'll see. But I don't think you're going to see like 8 guys leave a series or 5 guys switch, or I just don't think you're going to see that. Now that he retired from racing and promoting, how about a West Coast deep dive with Brent Cady? I have a lot of guys on the list. A lot of guys on the list. Jeremy is providing the purse payout for the Open next year. Oh, no. I'm not. The people are going to have to buy the website a lot, and they're going to have to buy our pay-per-views a lot. So, yeah. No. Day 782 asking for 100,000 to win at Hopstadt 3-day show. Can you get enough people in there? And what's that ticket price going to be? Always thinking about the ticket price. We have a lot of big races. And look, Chase, I love where your head's at, but one of the problems that's going to start happening in this sport is ticket prices. There were a lot of people in the campground at Williams Grove who didn't pay to get in. You know why? Ticket price. Walk through there and talk to them. Ticket prices, you can't. Race fans aren't used to NFL prices, not used to NBA prices, not used to NHL prices. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. Race fans have had it good a long, long time. $20, $25, even $30 is cheap entertainment. It really is. But race fans are used to paying that. Now the 2 series are asking them to pay a lot more. So 3 days at Hopstadt, how many people can you get in Hopstadt? And you are looking for $100,000 purse. I'm sure operating costs are about, it's a small track, so I'll say 15 grand just to open the gates with food, security, and everything else. I don't know, man. That's a sanction fee, or you gotta, high limit. I'm assuming. So I just think we've got to be careful with these ticket prices. Again, National Open. You think people would have saw Friday and said, we're going to go in on Saturday. They paid $50 for a parking. They paid a $50 camping fee. And then they sat by the fire and watched it. And I see that locally at regular shows, weekly shows. At Lincoln, they sit up on the hill. Never go into the track. In the parking lot on top of the hill where the haulers come in, they sit up there in their cars. Build a Bristol-style stadium around Hopstadt, $20 a ticket. Problem solved. Yeah. Well, I don't see many tracks being built nowadays. That's the problem. I'm just being a realist. And it's to the point now where racetracks really have to start thinking about being multi-purpose entertainment facilities. You can't just have races there anymore. BAPS is a real good one at that. They do other things and make money. So, man, I understand it'd be great to have it, but you just got to look at all the factors involved. Steve is king of the outlaws. Opperman, Ferkel, Wolfgang, and Allen were the real outlaws. Yeah, I mean, fair. It's fair. It's actually a very apropos statement. Sammy, too. I would include Sammy because, yeah, he ran the Outlaws a lot, but there's a couple years there he ran kind of an open deal when he was doing some of his moonlighting in IndyCar or the other stuff he was doing. He ran the Outlaws a lot, but he was kind of fits that mold a little bit. But I agree with you. On Saturday at the Grove, when the yellow came out for gravel, I knew I was getting this one, slowing down. Why was he allowed to blend in instead of going to the rear? Because he didn't stop. And the Outlaws use a blend roll. Actually, the car jumped out of gear and he popped it back in. So if the wheels don't stop with the World of Outlaws, the rule is it's a blend rule. I didn't say I agree with it. I'm just saying what the rule is. The new Knoxville Knights pod had a Knoxville track prep guy on today. Very interesting and worth a listen. Yeah, I had the Knoxville prep guy on a deep dive as well. Interesting guy. Real interesting guy. Does a good job. But I'll definitely check that out. I haven't seen it yet. Completely agree. The Outlaws wasted money on ASCS, and Brad and company are making smart choices with the All-Stars and NARC. Brilliant, if you ask me, just my opinion. Look, I know why. I know the World of Outlaws were trying to, I think, get a feeder system. They at times have had drivers come from 360/ASCS into the World of Outlaws ranks, but that hasn't happened since Jason Johnson. And I don't see that avenue anymore. Not with Power I, the All-Stars, IRA, NARC. I just think there's a lot of 410 feeder series now, and I don't know. I would have rather have seen the Outlaws try and get Power I. But this is the first year for that series. So, I mean, they purchased ASCS, last year. It kept ASCS alive, and I think that they wanted to. The Outlaws do worry about preserving the sport. I will give them all the credit in the world for that. So I think that was probably a sentimental purchase as much as it was to feed into their series. It's going to be a chase for these regional series now, I think. All right. Betting Mansfield, Ohio gets a Woo Sprint date. Would make sense if they have a World of Outlaws late model race. Might wait a year just to see how it goes. I would wait a year just because I think that's prudent. I just think that's, doing your homework. It's a lot easier to flip a sprint car than a late model. At least I think so. Has Chris Windham done enough to be back in the 7S ride next year? I believe he has. Looked better in the beginning and middle stages of the year. Slowed down a bit now. Has he done enough? I mean, I think he's done okay. And I would say, yeah. I mean, who else do you put in it at this juncture? So, yeah, I'll go with he's done enough. I've liked some things that I've seen, and maybe he can get another top 5 this year. Fun watching Ryan Timms' big year with low frills, no nonsense team. Assuming he perform next year, do you think it's more likely Liebig scales up for a national tour or a bigger team nabs Timms? Ooh, that's a tough one because Liebig has a business. I do not know the status of his business, meaning I don't know if it could run if he's not around. And I think Liebig's important when it comes to that car. That might be the toughest question of the night. I'll give you an A for that. I think it would be a huge mistake if Timms would leave. And I think he knows that. And I think he's had offers this year. I'm just guessing. I don't know for sure. And legitimately don't know for sure. But I would assume so. And I could see them scaling up a bit. Because I think it depends. We'll see how he does next year. Look, 1 year. Hey, look, this was a great year. You got to back it up now. Sometimes staying on top of the mountain is harder than getting there. And he's got to back it up. And I think that will determine his future. but I could see Liebig maybe bumping up a bit as opposed to Tim's leaving if things stay as good as they are. Are you going to do a special Christmas show with co-host Swank, Sugar Bear, and Nishaw? I had Nishaw on for Knoxville. Sugar Bear doesn't want to give his identity out. And Swank, yes, there will be a Christmas show with Swank this year. Just want to say my brother is racing his last race in 2 weeks in the Sprinter at Lake Havasu, 66 years behind the wheel. Oh my, 66 years. Whew, it's a long time. Wow. Well, good luck to him. Who takes over Shark Racing after Bobby's demise? I don't think anybody takes it over. I think those two teams can run, I don't want to say independent of each other, but I think they're different. I just think they're different. We'll see. I don't expect the 1S to go anywhere. Jacob, I don't know. Jacob is a different kind of cat, but I think he'll want to probably carry on his father's legacy. And I don't know. That'll be interesting. But I don't expect too much to change. I think they'd be groomed for this. Does High Limit get 5 new teams going for the possible 5 franchises in 2026? I don't think they get 5. I don't think they get 5. They're going to lose one. They're going to lose a 14. So obviously that one will be replaced. So I don't think they get 5 new guys. I just don't. I don't think that happens. Has Chris Windham done enough to be back in the 7? We already tackled that one. Yes. The Williams Grove Nationals will never be anything more than it is right now. There's no vision or ambition to do anything else. It would never be able to handle something like they do at Knoxville. No, it'll never be the Knoxville Nationals. It doesn't have the facility. It doesn't have the infrastructure. It doesn't have the town. Pennsylvania is different than Iowa too. I don't think it's fair to ask Williams Grove to do something like Knoxville in October when high school football is going on. Knoxville shuts down. Knoxville's in August. Everybody's off school. So I think they're 2 different events. I don't care how much vision you have. You're not going to make Mechanicsburg, PA like Knoxville, Iowa. It's way different. The dynamics are different. It just doesn't, that's not going to work. It's just not going to work. So, but that doesn't mean the National Open can't get bigger. I do think it needs a little TLC, a little tender love and care. And I do think they need to start. I think one of the first things they could do is start, if they're going to add money to the purse, not saying they are, but if they do it from the ground up. Don't do it from the top down, because that's what makes Knoxville special to the drivers and all the stuff that goes on around it in the town and for 4 days and so on and so forth. But you can't ask the National Open to be the Knoxville Nationals in any setting because the area is different. The time of year is different. There's way too much to overcome. Should the Williams Grove National Open have more pomp and circumstance behind it? It just feels like another race where the other crown jewels feel much greater or grander. I don't think it. people are making out like it sucked. It didn't suck. They had a great crowd. They made money each night. I thought the Friday crowd was good. I mean, what pomp and circumstance do you want? I mean, they had fireworks. You had a first-time winner in the event. You had Chase Deetz breaking through Friday night. It had its share of storylines. Bill Baylog almost pulled off a National Open win. Gravel didn't compete at all. Like, gravel was a non-factor. So I just don't. Driver intros could be jazzed up a bit. Here's the problem. And I'm all for driver intros as long as you have time. When you have time trials and hot laps lasting an hour and 40 minutes, doesn't work. Again, we're not serving bacon and eggs at this thing. Okay? I think it would, in order to get what you want, or what I think you want, you'd have to go to 3 days, split field, and they don't have enough cars for that right now. You're going to have to go split field to where Saturday you don't have qualifying. It's the only way it can happen. Because the Grove has that situation where they have cars on the backstretch, cars parked in the infield, they got to bring them over, and it's a whole thing. So, yeah, there's more you could do, but I think you need 3 days. I think you need to change the format, and I think you almost have to revamp it a little bit. And I just don't know if they're willing to do that yet. Hell, they can't even agree on the date next year. Hint, hint. So I think there's some stuff to overcome. There's challenges. Would any of the top Aussie drivers come to Woo or High Limit, McHugh, Goodyear, Williamson, etc. in 2026? I don't see that happening. No, not at all. I mean, you got to want to be over here. You're going to have to get a work visa for the entire season. And I don't see that. And somebody's got to take a chance on him. And Williamson was already here and it didn't go well. Goodyear was here, didn't go well. So I don't see it. 3-day SmackDown, $90 with a pit pass too. So $90 for all 3 days. You're never going to make your money back. Well, it depends what your purse is. It just doesn't seat a lot. In my opinion, the track in PA with a bright, unlimited future is the Port. They have vision and drive unlike Williams Grove. Yeah, I mean, they have some issues to overcome as well. I mean, nothing's perfect, but yeah, I mean, they definitely, the two tracks, I think, do look at things a little differently. And I think I'm trying to use the right word is it's just different philosophies. And I think here's the thing too, Port has an advantage. The Tuscarora 50 has the Juniata County Fair. The Grove can't do that. They can't. There's no way they can have a fair there. The Juniata County Fairs really helps Tuscarora 50, I think. I think it just gives it a different feel. So, again, I think we're asking the Grove to do something that really isn't feasible. Man, people are rough on the Grove. Even after good racing, I thought it would be different. Kudos to the Grove. Job well done. Look at how many national races had poor car counts, poor attendance this year. What more do you want? I did have a prominent team tell me that they felt the National Open was just another race this year. It just felt different than past National Opens. So I'm not going to discount what people are saying because, again, I heard it from another source. However, I didn't think it was drastically different. I didn't think, not drastically. I'm going to stab DP3. Where is Personally going? What are you hearing at landing spot? I'm not going to get into that. Come on. If the Grove moved the pits to the outer backstretch area and left the infield, current pit areas for pre-staging and the dreaded work area, I think it would be streamline the event. It would be great. I've been calling for this for a few years now. Clear all that wooded area, put the pits out there, and yes, run your time trials out of the infield. It would clean up and streamline, as you said, that show. It would knock an hour off it, at least. And man, and by the way, the view would be better. I think there's some people who really get mad at the view at the Grove. So I agree. I think it'd be a great change at Williams Grove. Will Sprint Car Unlimited have a Black Friday sale? That's an interesting concept. You know what? I'm going to have a Black Friday sale. Sugar Bear, because of you, I'm going to do it. Going to have a Black Friday sale on the website. Everybody can thank Sugar Bear. We're going to give, you know what? We'll give 20% off. We'll knock it down to $28 like we do for Knoxville. There you go. Now I just got to remember it. So remind me the week before. Move the National Open to the Summer Nationals date and run the fall shootout in October. You would avoid football season. I'm not a big fan of that. I do think we need to keep some tradition. And I don't think the drivers are going to like Eldora, the Knoxville Nationals, and National Open all in the span of like 3.5, 4 weeks. So I don't think that's good either. I'm not a big fan of that. I understand why you say that, but we got to keep something. Let's not get like college football where they have no tradition anymore. When it comes to the National Open, the word open is there for a reason. The best drivers in the country should be there. World of Outlaws and High Limit. They have choice. It's personal choice. I'm not going to, should be. No, you want them there. There's a difference between should and want. You want them there. They can do whatever they want. And I still believe we have so many big shows now that if you miss one, it's not as big of a deal. Unfortunately. All right, we got about 7 minutes left because I got to call my daughter and get on the 90 at 9. Should there be other 410 races running against a Crown Jewel event? I see both sides. Number one, does the NFL play football against the Super Bowl? Nope. No football against the Super Bowl. So from that standpoint, I'd love if every track would shut down for the Crown Jewel events. I think it would showcase the sport more. However, tracks got to make money. You would think that they would not schedule shows against Crown Jewel events if they didn't make money at them. So I'm going to assume that they're making money at that particular show. So I see both sides of it, or I can make an argument for both sides. Don't forget to buy your 2026 World 100 tickets early, as you don't want to be impacted by another sellout. Not lying. That World 100 is huge. I'd like to get to it one year, but the problem is I'm usually covering the Tuscarora 50 or I'm doing something else. So I like that we got a late model plug in there, but not lying. World 100's gigantic. Black Friday sale. It's all because of Sugar Bear. Yes, there will be a Black Friday sale. In fact, it's going to be a Thanksgiving week sale. How about that? I'm going to up the ante to a Thanksgiving week sale. All right. What else do we got? Is your daughter? Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. In fact, I missed the Blackhawks game. She told me it was, she played soccer today, and she's a goalie. And look, I'm not the easiest person. I'm not a helicopter dad, but I don't pat them on the back unless they deserve it. She played well today. She made an incredible save. They won 4-3. She let a Mr. Softy goal in off a rebound. I told her about that, but they won 4-3, and she told me the Blackhawks were on at 5, but I forgot it. They played the Florida Panthers, and I missed it. So, but I do know my daughter is tuned into the NHL. She usually has this show on, not because I'm her dad, but because then she knows she can call me. Although she does make some comments about some of the, when they talk hockey, she loves hockey. And the Bears start this week. So, again, yes, she'll be watching hockey, and I'm sure her and I are going to talk about it shortly. You know what? Should we make the promo code Sugar Bear? That just sounds so weird. We might. I have to think about that one. Do you know who has final decision-making authority in Clausen Marshall? I think Tim Clausen handles a lot of it. I think Tim Clausen's actively involved there. I would assume that they all talk, but Tim Clausen, I have seen him in the pit area there, even more than the Marshalls. 69 yes, 569 campers at the Grove, 228 at Juniata County Fair. I did know that it was 569 I actually got that today. Earlier today, I was on the phone and somebody said there were 569 campers. So do the math. They kill it at the Grove on camping. I did not know it was 228 at Juniata County Fair. Best race this Friday, Lakeside, Sealands Grove, or New Egypt. New Egypt. I'll say New Egypt. Could you see, or would it make sense for Liebig and Timms to team up with another higher profile team to go on a national tour in 2027? Not a bad idea. I mean, I don't think Liebig's going to want to be told. I don't know if sharing, I just don't know if he would do that. But yeah, I mean, it would make sense. It would definitely cushion the blow of some things and take care of some problems and make it more feasible. Florida 3, Chicago 2. Damn it. I told her they had a shot to win. Damn it. Well, I guess they were close. I got to look at the I can watch the replay if I ever get the 98-9 done tonight. So, damn it. I don't like Florida either. But I do like that Connor McDavid re-signed at $12.5 million a year, and he didn't break the bank. He thought of the team a little bit. Just saying. All right, guys, that's a wrap. Thank you very much for joining the show. If you like the content on our YouTube channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. You can also check out our daily exclusive content at SprintCarUnlimited.com. Also, we had that commentary on Bobby Allen. It is free. Check it out on the .com side. Take a look at the site. And again, I appreciate you guys joining the show, and we'll be back next week. Stay tuned.